So for me to really explain what inspired the founding of Africa Sports Unified, I have to give you context and backdate it a little bit. So I was born and raised in South London to Nigerian parents, which was excellent. We were all extremely passionate about sports and in particular football. I had the opportunity to represent England schoolboys in football. And so I traveled playing football. I loved it. And I also had an experience or understanding as to what happens in the business side of sports, to say, like what happens behind the scenes. As many of you may be able to relate with me on, being raised in a household to Nigerian parents, I was strongly encouraged to continue my studies, which I did. And so in 2013, I was very excited to begin my master's at Birkbeck University, which is part of University of London. And I studied sports management and the business of football, which was really great. I actually really enjoyed it. I focused my dissertation on the NPFL, so Nigerian Professional Football League. I was extremely excited to start it. It was really good. And as I began my dissertation, I stumbled across the first hurdle, which was that there's actually not much quality references I can use for my dissertation. I was looking for information about sports business principles. So your media, information on rights holders, information on governance, information on sporting events, sponsorship, all those sorts of things. There's just a lack of information about sports business principles pertaining to the African sports market. And so as you can imagine, studying a master's in sports business, as I was conducting my interviews and research and speaking to people, I would ask them, where did you go to find out information about what's happening in the sports business market in Africa? They said, there is no place that we go, Gabriel, that we just speak to people. And so I thought to myself, that doesn't sit well with me. I think we can all attest to the fact that Africa has really graced, the global sports world. If we can all think of maybe athletes or football players who have left us with great memories, who have made us smile, and high chances are that they were either African or of African descent. And so it just wasn't correlating with me. A country that's given so much, yet had minimal information about how to actually develop or put things in place in terms of developing a sustainable ecosystem. And so eventually, instead of banging my head against a brick wall, I had a light bulb moment. And that light bulb moment was, there's a gap in the market, so why not just fill that gap? And so that's what inspired the founding of Africa Sports Unified. Our vision and purpose at the outset of ASU is simple. If there was another Gabriel who was studying a master's or a program and needed information or wanted to find information about the African sports market, they can do so. If there are experts or key stakeholders who wanted to know more information about the Pan-African sports market, similarly, they had a platform that they can go to find out information. The whole idea was to create transparency, to create content that championed, that raised awareness, that advocated what was happening in that industry. It was really fun. We began by doing articles and created the first dedicated podcast to the Pan-African sports business ecosystem, which was great. So we'll talk with people, we'll highlight what they're doing, and we'll champion them. And so at the outset, that was our vision, and that was the purpose of why we started it. To create a space where people can come to find out information. As you can imagine, Africa is not a country, it's a continent filled with 54, 55 countries. So there is a lot of information out there, but we wanted to bring all of that information together to create a hub or a focal point where people can come and find trusted information about what's happening in the Pan-African sports space. Hence the name Africa Sports Unified. We're seeming to aggregate and unify all of the information into one place where people such as yourself and other people in the industry can come and find out information pertaining to the Pan-African sports business market. So today, Africa Sports Unified are a boutique strategic consultancy and knowledge hub for the Pan-African and emerging markets. Our purpose is simple yet effective, and that is to connect the leaders and key stakeholders and develop a sustainable Pan-African sports ecosystem by showcasing the social and economic benefit that sports brings, both on and off the field. So we're not just about what happens on the field and score lines, as exciting as they may be. We are really about those founding principles to help develop and build something sustainable. There is no denying that Africa has contributed greatly to sports on a global level, without a doubt. However, there is still a large amount of untapped potential pertaining to Africa and sports. And so our why is quite simple. What drives us, what wakes us up in the morning, what keeps us going is understanding that there is a lot of potential and growth still to happen. And so we really want to play our part to really harness those opportunities and highlight what can be done and the benefits that occur socially and economically. Because by doing so, we create opportunities. These opportunities are captured and harnessed, and ultimately it raises the standards and living of people, of individuals and communities as well. So we really want to play our part in doing that, highlighting what can be done, and like I said, turning that potential into reality. What we do at ASU centers around 4 core pillars. And we believe these 4 pillars fit perfectly within our purpose, which is to connect leaders, key stakeholders, and also develop a sustainable Pan-African sports ecosystem. So in no particular order, our 4 core pillars are: firstly, our market leading intelligence. This is really what we do at our core, creating content to create transparency and help people with their decision making. Our second core pillar is through our strategic consulting. This is probably the least known of what we do, but it's extremely important. We work collaboratively with organizations and across different sectors to help them reach their objectives, be it through or in sports. Thirdly, we run events. Everyone loves a good event, and so do we. But we are really proud of creating these safe spaces for the key stakeholders to meet, create these long-lasting and fruitful relationships, to continue to innovate and create ideas that will shape and have a positive impact on the industry. And lastly, which is our 4th pillar, we run educational programs. These programs really help with leadership development, as we really believe that to develop a sustainable ecosystem and safeguard the industry, it's extremely important to develop leaders off of the field. It's just as important as the leadership on the field. So through programs that we run, we help build these programs that safeguard the industry and ensure that the right people are in the right places who are leading these organizations that are innovating and on the cusp of our industry. So those are our 4 core pillars, and that's what we do at ASU. So number 1, market leading intelligence, strategic consulting, events, and educational programs. The future for sports on the continent in Africa is exciting, extremely exciting. Firstly, we all know just the power that sports brings across different sports, and how people engage with it and the benefit it brings both socially and economically. Of course, it might come with a bit of heartache depending on whether your team or your country does well or not, but the emotional connection that sports brings is unparalleled. Secondly, Africa is an extremely young continent with an average age of just over 19, and it's predicted that by 2050, a quarter of the world will be African who will be below the age of 25. On top of that, Africa is an extremely knowledgeable continent and digitally savvy as well. So we have the use of digital money and things like that, that inhabitants in Africa are really versed in using. So we already see with the strength that sports has and the young demographic of Africa and the need for organizations to really engage with young people moving forward, that Africa is a very important area in terms of how sports will be used on the continent. So if you think about just the power that sports has and the three key things I've just mentioned in terms of demographic, technological understanding, and population growth, sports in Africa, the opportunities are only going to continue to grow. Well, the current contribution that sports has to the African GDP stands at 0.5%. And depending on what report that you read, the global contribution that sports has to the GDP is either 2% or 5%. So you can see that there is room for growth in terms of how sports can be used on the continent. And we're not just talking about elite sports here or grassroots. We're thinking about this holistically, the ripple effect of it, what jobs can be created, value chains, what sectors will positively be impacted because of this. And so that's why we're in this space, and we're excited to play our part to help harness all of that opportunity to really bring opportunities to individuals and organizations alike.